here with Laura Camilleri of the Museum of Dufferin. She's the archivist here, and we are in Crombie's station.
Yes.
Is that what we call it?
Yes, we call it Crombie Station, but it wasn't a typical station in the way that you'd think of a train station. It was more of a flag stop. So it was just a spot for people to hide, and we've got a roof so you're sheltering from the rain. And you'd literally flag down the train and they would stop. You'd hop on and then off they go.
So what's the origin of the station?
It was constructed in 1872 on the property owned by Samuel and I believe her name was Martha Crombie. And their lives were never quite the same after that because there was always someone who was late for the train. So they would run, pretty much abandon their cart and their horse, whatever it is, jump out, run for the flag station. So they were always there looking after people's horses and carts and leftover baggage or whatever they might have forgotten. The train was a passenger train, so it came 2 to 3 times a day. And people would hop on and off 2 to 3 times a day. So they'd look after whatever people may have forgotten as they were running for the train.
Were people going in both directions?
Yes, it was part of the Grey Bruce line. So you were going from Owen Sound through to Orangeville. That was your typical run through Dufferin County.
Right.
You could go down to Toronto if you hopped onto a different line. But mostly people would tend to stop here. You might stop in Orangeville. Occasionally you'd stop up at Shelburne because the line did continue in that direction.
So Orangeville and Shelburne would have been main stops,
Yes.
so to speak, but then this was, as you say, a flag station.
Right, it was a flag stop for sure.
Flag stop. Did people literally wave a flag to flag down the train, do you think?
Sometimes they did, yeah. There was usually one left in here, but sometimes you're out there with just your arms. Hey, stop. Not on the tracks, of course, but from the porch of the station, you could do that. Of course, if you were early, and you can see that around here, we've got some graffiti and people have carved their names into the walls. Nothing else to do. Everybody always carries a pocket knife no matter where you go. I mean, it is farmland. You never know when you need a pocket knife for something.
Well, I have
so
one
you'd
with
scratch
me
your
now.
name.
I can see one of the dates on the wall, 1920, up there.
We've tried to figure out who some of these initials might belong to.
Right.
Assuming that a lot of them were from the Dufferin County area. Why else would you be running to Crombie Station to hop in? You might be going to Orangeville or Shelburne if you were perhaps from away. So we haven't had too much luck in trying to figure out who they are.
Now, I understand that the owners, the Crombies, were farmers, and this must have really disrupted their farming if the trains were coming by with any kind of frequency at all.
It probably did. As I said, Mr. Crombie may be out doing what he was doing in the farm fields or in the barn. Farm runs on a rhythm, and trains disrupt that rhythm.
Yeah.
So it's usually Mrs. Crombie who was sort of directing, picking up, sending people where they need to go, taking the horses into the barn, whatever it might be that was left behind.
And how frequently did the trains run?
2 to 3 times a day, depended on whether it was freight or passenger.
Right.
Yeah, because the Grey Bruce line did take both.
And what kind of freight was being carried on the train?
Oh, anything from flour, mail. Your mail used to come between 2 and 3 times a day,
Right.
same as whenever the trains were coming. You'd have cattle, you'd have, well, anything that we would send on a train now, you'd basically send on a train then. Yeah, goods and services. Yeah.
And this building is reconstructed in the museum.
When the building was originally made the museum building, when it was constructed in 1994, they moved in this building, and the bottom 2 feet of the wood interior and exterior had rotted, so we had to replace those. But everything else up is original to the station, and it was brought in as an interpretive spot for people to come and enjoy, maybe sit and relax, have a moment, or if you're in your 70s or 80s, I've had a few people come to visit and they just remember what it was like,
Right.
knowing that this was there and seeing it on the landscape.
They weren't likely to be able to flag down a train. No,
No,
Right.
not anymore for sure.
I wonder if it cost any more for an individual to interrupt the train as it was going by, or was the fare pretty much the same, or do you know?
Well, the fare was determined on where your stop was and where you were going. And the conductors would always they'd have their little price list, so they could tell you how much your ticket was going to cost. And you came prepared, knowing that you could pay on the train as you got there.
Do we know what is standing on the property now that this building was lifted from?
It's been a while since I drove around Amaranth, but I would suspect it's still just the farmland that this station was on. It's still operating as a farm. You're probably going to see that when you drive by.
Yeah. And when was the service discontinued? Do you know?
I believe it was discontinued in the 1940s. I believe the passenger service was certainly sort of shrunk,
Right.
and it was maybe once a day, one direction only. But I'm not positive. We can certainly find that out and let you know.
Well, Laura Camilleri, you're the archivist here.
I am.
Can you tell me quickly, what does an archivist do at a museum?
The short version is I am the keeper of Dufferin County stories. So if you're thinking of what do we collect anything that's on paper, any maps, photographs, documents, organizational history, tons of photographs. We have so many photographs all over the area. And we basically make them available to anybody who wants to see them. We protect them, we preserve them, we index them so that people can find what they're after. Kind of a modern day card catalog in our database.
That's
you want to
awesome.
know about where I could find a picture of a cow? I can help you.
This is a wonderful museum. Thank you very much for having us, Laura. And I hope to be back again, this time with my grandkids.
I hope so.
Okay.